Now let's talk about the in-Yuan source points. Each of the 12 primary channels has a Yuan source point where it is said the original qi surfaces and lingers. On in channels, the Yuan source points are the same as the Shu stream points. When the 5 Zhang are diseased, select the Yuan source points. They are the primary point on the yin channels for this purpose. Let's start with lung 9, pericardium 7, and heart 7. Lung 9 is located on the radial end of the transverse crease of the wrist where the radial artery pulsates. Classification, Yuan source point of the lung meridian, Shu stream point of the lung meridian, converging point of vessels. Needling, perpendicular insertion, 0.3 to 0.5 Sun. Keep clear of the radial artery. Clinically, Yuan source points are of great significance in treating diseases of the internal organs. Yuan source points are the sites where the Yuan or primary qi of the Zangfu organs passes and stays. Puncturing the Yuan source points stimulates the vital energy of the regular meridians, regulates the functional activities of the internal organs, reinforces antipathogenic factors, and eliminates pathogenic factors. This method of treating diseases deals principally with the root causes. The Yuan source point from the affected meridian is often combined with the Luo connecting point of the internally, externally related meridians in use. Functions of lung 9. Tonifies lung qi and lung yin. Resolves phlegm from the lungs in chronic cases. Tonifies gathering qi or zong qi and therefore the lungs and heart. Affects all blood vessels. Pericardium 7. Located in the middle of the transverse crease of the wrist, between the tendons of muscle palmaris longus and muscle flexor carpi radialis. Yuan source point of the pericardium meridian, Shu stream point of the pericardium meridian. Needling, perpendicular insertion, 0.5 to 0.8 Sun. Functions of pericardium 7. Calms the mind and opens the mind's orifices. Very particularly useful in insomnia, manic behavior, palpitations, agitation, mental restlessness, sadness, and fright. Pericardium 7 also clears heat and toxic heat, as in febrile disease, red eyes, thirst, eczema of hands, carbuncles, furuncles. And pericardium 7 harmonizes the stomach. So it's very useful for epigastric pain and vomiting. Heart 7 is located on the wrist at the ulnar end of the transverse crease of the wrist in the depression on the radial side of the tendon of the muscle flexor carpi ulnaris. Classification, Yuan source point of the heart meridian, Shu stream point of the heart meridian. Needling, perpendicular insertion, 0.3 to 0.5 Sun. Functions of heart 7. Calms the mind and opens the mind's orifices. So heart 7 is particularly useful for insomnia, poor memory, manic depression, inappropriate laughter, shouting at people, sadness, fear, mental restlessness, agitation, and palpitations. Heart 7 is the most important point to nourish heart blood. It can treat impotence in men and lack of libido in women. Heart 7 stops itching in skin diseases. It has an antispasmodic effect, so it's very good for backache in men and good for tremors of the arm, as in Parkinson's disease. With gallbladder 40, heart 7 strengthens the mind and promotes decisiveness. Now, let's proceed to the next group of YUAN-SOURCE points. We have kidney 3, liver 3, and spleen 3. Let's start with spleen 3. Location on the medial aspect of the foot in the depression posterior and inferior to the proximal metatarsal digital joint of the big toe at the junction of the red and white skin. Spleen 3 is the YUAN-SOURCE point of the spleen meridian and shoestring point of the spleen meridian. Spleen 3 is one of the major tonifying points of the body and is very commonly used. Needling is perpendicular insertion 0.5 to 0.8 sum. Spleen 3 is the major point to tonify the spleen. It stimulates the intellect, the E, and mental faculties. Spleen 3 regulates the intestines, so it's very good for abdominal distension and pain and diarrhea. Spleen 3 resolves dampness, particularly from the head. Resolves phlegm and strengthens the lungs and strengthens the spinal muscles. Liver 3 is located on the dorsum of the foot in the depression proximal to the first metatarsal space. YUAN-SOURCE point of the liver meridian and shoestring point of the liver meridian. Functions of liver 3. Subdues liver yang. So it's very good for headache, dizziness, blurred vision, numbness of the head. Liver 3 extinguishes interior wind. Very effective for opisthotonus, epilepsy, deviation of the eye, and mouth. Liver 3 promotes the smooth flow of liver qi. So it's very beneficial in hypochondrial distension, irritability, epigastric and abdominal distension, sighing, breast distension, nausea, constipation, borborygmi. Liver 3 resolves dampness. So it treats hypogastric fullness, hernial and genitourinary disorders, swollen testicles, pain in genitalia, retracted testicles, swollen vulva, difficult urination, retention of urine, and jaundice. Liver 3 invigorates blood and regulates menstruation. So it's very effective for amenorrhea, irregular periods, painful periods, excessive menstrual bleeding, prolapse of uterus. Liver 3 calms the mind. Propensity to outbursts of anger, irritability, insomnia, worrying. It calms spasms, so it's very good for cramps, stiffness of the lower back with inability to bend, contracture of sinews. Kidney 3 is located on the medial aspect of the foot, posterior to the medial malleolus, in the depression between the tip of the medial malleolus and tendocalcaneus. Yuan-SOURCE point of the kidney meridian, shoestring point of the kidney meridian. Functions of kidney 3. Tonifies the kidneys, both the yin and yang component. So it's very good for backache, dizziness, tinnitus, exhaustion, feeling cold, frequent urination, cold and weak knees, dry throat, night sweating, hot palms. Kidney 3 strengthens the kidneys receiving of qi. Cough, wheezing, breathlessness. Calms the mind, so it's very good for insomnia, excessive dreaming, poor memory. Benefits essence. So for men with seminal emissions, nocturnal emissions, impotence, premature ejaculation, weakened sexual function. Kidney 3 also strengthens the lower back and knees. So it's very good for lower backache, weak knees, achy knees, cold legs. And finally, kidney 3 regulates the uterus. So it's particularly useful for irregular periods, infertility, scanty or heavy periods. Thank you very much for your attention.